Welcome to DMV Spotlight on ESPN 630, the sports capital, where we shine a light on local stories from the District, Maryland, and Virginia to inform, enlighten, and inspire you. I'm Barbara Britt, and I'm delighted to welcome back to DMV Spotlight today on ESPN 630 one of our favorite guests. We have Casey Baines. She's the founder and executive director of Casey Cares. So thank you so much for joining us again on DMV Spotlight.
Thanks. I love being here with you guys.
We have so much fun. And for folks who have not been familiar with Casey Cares, I know you get the little postcard in the mail from time to time, which is how I found you the first time. And I'm like, what is this? So take us back through the beginning, because I know you have your big event coming up, and we certainly want to talk about that. We don't want to miss that. But tell us about Casey Cares. How, obviously, you're Casey, but how did we get started?
So it's hard to believe that when I started Casey Cares 20 years ago, we started out with just 3 families, and now we have grown to help over 213,000 program participants.
That's
right.
Incredible.
It's amazing to think about the impact that we've made. But think about this, is that you're a family just doing your best as a mom, dad, and the kids, and you have a child who's been complaining, and they really haven't been healthy lately, so you're taking them into the doctors, guessing that maybe they have a sprained ankle, or maybe they're coming down with the flu. And when the doctor says to you, Mom, I need you to head off to the hospital for some additional testing, everybody's world is rocked in that entire family, because mom's like, well, no, we have practice to get to, and we've got this, and the tutor's coming, and dad's supposed to help me run this kid and that kid.
That all comes to a screeching halt.
It comes to a screeching halt, and the family is delivered this life-altering diagnosis, and those ripples of that diagnosis are felt throughout the entire family. Mom, dad, brother, sister.
And so Casey Cares helps children who are critically ill, but really you reach out to the whole family. And it's an amazing story of how you started, because that's a very compelling story of how you started Casey Cares. But let's go back and tell that story of why this became your life mission.
I was doing volunteer work in a hospital, and I heard a little boy wanted to meet a race car driver. I thought I could do that. I could reach out and see if I could make that happen. Fortunately, I was able to deliver on this little boy's wish and was able to create the opportunity for him to meet a race car driver. It was amazing. The race car driver comes into the child's hospital room, all dressed up in his get-up, the hood of his car. And race car drivers are pretty petite gentlemen, which I didn't know. And all this hoopla and magic is happening. The media's there, catching every second of this special moment. And I heard a little boy's voice on the other side of that partition, the curtain they pull across to make it private, say, I wish I had cancer. Maybe I would get cool stuff too. And with that, my heart sank, and I had to see who would say such a thing. And as I walked by, the mom was there, creating almost like a physical barrier of a hug around this little boy. And I became obsessed at that moment of why somebody would wish to have cancer. And after talking to the doctors and the social workers, the boy didn't want cancer. He wanted somebody to understand what he was going through, because he too was battling for his life.
So help us understand. I mean, obviously, we know we're grown-ups, we're adults, or we try to be, that when a child is critically ill, they don't always understand. They don't always know what's happening. They just know how are they feeling? What's happening for them as far as you have experienced in these 20 years?
It is so difficult when a family is diagnosed with a critical illness, and we say it that way. The entire family is diagnosed with it, because I'm a mom of 3, and I know the other parents out there, we can't help ourselves. The moment that this baby comes into our life, they're ours, and we project into the future and create these amazing milestones that are going to come up, whether it's an elementary school graduation or their first soccer game. We have these memories. And when those memories are robbed from you, things really go downhill fast. And that's why KC Cares steps in to help these families, whether it's a new pair of pajamas at the hospital to make them feel a little bit more comfortable. And of course, we give those PJs to the brothers, sisters, moms, and dads as well, so they have something positive to bond over.
So this is where KC Cares comes from, and this is really the heart of what you do. And this is why we're here today, because last time we spoke, we were a little bit far away from the world's biggest pajama party, which is what you call it. It's so much fun. I know it's pajama. Do what you need to do. It's totally fine. But tell us about this event, because I know you've been looking forward to this all year long.
Oh my gosh, we love to celebrate our families who truly need to make every day count, because that's all we all have. But when you have a devastating diagnosis, you really you realize it right away. So we do this world's largest pajama party, and it helps us spread awareness about KC Cares, because we help all critically ill children, not just cancer children, but rare heart disease, or maybe they have a blood disease or sickle cell, an organ transplant. Anything that requires that child to have frequent hospitalizations, KC Cares is there to help not just them, but their brothers, sisters, moms, and dads. And this world's biggest pajama party just helps to heighten that awareness for our community.
That is amazing. Now, do you gather people, or how does it work? I mean, I know you have a plan. I know you do, because I can see it in your eyes.
There are so many fun ways to get involved. So you can just wear your PJs to work, take some pictures, put it on social, and let everybody know that you're wearing your PJs in honor of these KC Cares families. Because these kids, it sounds really nice to us to stay in PJs all day, but let me tell you, all these children in our programs want is to be normal, to have a normal childhood. And that's where KC Cares steps in, is to provide a little bit of normalcy.
And some fun.
Absolutely, lots of fun. And these PJ Day and the PJ parties that we do are exactly that. So wear your pajamas to work, wear your pajamas to the grocery store. You take a picture, tag KC Cares in it, and let the community know that we are a resource for them. We can't wait to help. Or perhaps you want to get together your whole office and everybody comes in PJs, or your child's school wants to raise pajamas. Wear pajamas to school and then donate a pair.
So you can create your own world's largest PJ party. Am I now slowly getting it?
Absolutely. Because there are no two children alike, and there are no two pajama campaigns alike either at KC Cares. So we want people to give back in which ways it makes sense for them.
And so when people get together and you see, I mean, give us some ideas. You said the office, but what are some of the other ones? I bet people have been creative over the years.
People are so creative. I love every second of it. So you'll have people do like videos of themselves doing the most mundane tasks, but in like bunny slippers and their hair like on top of their head. And they act like nothing's wrong. And you see like the checkout girl at the grocery store thinking, why are they in their pajamas? It's 2:00 in the afternoon.
I'm so jealous.
It is such a great time, and that's what we need to do, is to bring joy to our families. And by them seeing us out there supporting them, by us wearing our pajamas all day, it's an amazing way. That's why we also really like to get the schools involved, because kids helping kids, that's where it all starts, is to make sure that kids understand the importance of what these other children are going through and how they can help and make their lives a little bit more pleasurable.
Have you had good support from some of our local school systems in the Washington area?
Oh my gosh, the support has been amazing. And I do believe that it's one of those things that kids can understand, and the parents really in our area are so supportive, and they want their kids to help and to see that feeling and get addicted to that feeling, because when you help somebody, that makes you feel so amazing inside.
Very blessed to give. And I think, the children can relate to, having their PJs on. They know what it's like to be homesick for a day, and just how. So have you had schools say, yes, I'm going to take this on. All of our kids are allowed to come to school, because certain schools are, have stringent rules, and we understand that. We don't want to violate that. So how do they organize that? If they're listening, a family is listening, a PTA member is listening, a young person is listening and saying, that sounds really fun. What do they need to do?
they need to reach out to us at kccares.org. And this is a great way to get service hours, guys. So if you have a Girl Scout troop or maybe your sports teams, we've even had sports teams practice in their pajamas. So great. And they're getting their community service hours. It is an amazing campaign, a great way to raise awareness and to get people together to support other people in need.
Does it become a fundraiser of sorts?
Yes. So we also, some teams, like we had a soccer team who they all wore their PJs to practice, took a great video, and then they also brought in new two-piece pajamas. So why do they need to be two-piece? Because think about it. When you're in the hospital, you have all these wires and you're attached to a lot of things. So they need to be two pieces. And we need all sizes of pajamas. I know I even get caught up in going shopping and getting the adorable little girl baby pajamas. But think about it. These children are on so much medication, steroids. They definitely blow up as a reaction to these. So we need adult size pajamas too for these children.
And obviously fun. We don't want them drab. We want them with fun designs and, like you said, race cars or princesses or sports themes or the crazy ones that look like whatever.
Absolutely. We want them to be amazing PJs. You know those PJs that you buy for yourself like once every 3 years? Those are the ones we're talking about. Those PJs that you put on that you're like, gosh, I hope somebody comes to the door this day. These are my good PJs. That never happens that way. But that's what we want to do, because at KC Cares, we're all about spoiling that entire family. Just giving them, even if it's a moment, to feel normal and to forget about the treatments and the scans that are just devastating to their entire family.
So circle us back. How do you get connected as KC Cares with the children in the various hospitals? How does that happen? How does that get connected?
The main way that we work with children that participate in our programs are through the hospitals, through social workers. So a lot of times the children are given this diagnosis unexpectedly, and then the child life worker or the social worker hands them an application for KC Cares. We make it simple because you are being thrown so much information and you can't process it. It is very overwhelming. And sometimes people are afraid to apply for our programs right away because they feel like they're resigning themselves, that their child may lose their battle, which is not true. At KC Cares, we do have some children who don't win their battle, but we have a ton of other children who survive and thrive. They even come back and intern and volunteer for us at KC Cares.
Amazing. I didn't even think about that aspect, though, that somehow it made it seem like this is now real, that my child really is critically ill.
Absolutely.
But the best thing is, I mean, we've all been to tests or, God forbid, a hospital stay, and you get that gown and the ties may or may not do what they need to do at the appropriate moment. But when you're a child and you get that gown, it really is. It's usually kind of drab. It's been through the wash 80 zillion times, and you want something new and fun. So tell us what happens then. They fill out the form. The child is in the hospital. And then when do they get their PJs?
So we give our patients or any person in the hospital these PJs immediately. They don't need to be a KC Cares, official program participant, because what we do at KC Cares is from our hearts. We treat each and every one of the children in our programs as if they were our nieces and nephews, and we just want to always be there to wrap our arms around them and support and comfort them. And that's what a pair of PJs can do for a family. It's scary to be in the hospital. It's scary to be in the hospital when you're young. It's scary to have your child in the hospital. And sometimes a new pair of pajamas that have your favorite child, your child's favorite character or a beautiful unicorn on it is just what you need to lift the spirit and change that mood. Because that's what we want to do. We want to take care of these kids, give them something to look forward to so their bodies can better receive the treatment and have positive outcomes.
And there's been so many studies now that the mental part, the emotional part of how you really do have to fight when you're sick, no matter how old you are. And tell us about the siblings and how they get treated as well.
We at Casey Cares need to look after the siblings just as much as the critically ill child, because the critically ill child is getting tons of attention. While it's all negative, kind of health related, the parents don't know how to cope, right? So all of a sudden you let the critically ill child kind of have a little bit more leeway. They get away with more. The siblings are seeing that Johnny doesn't need to go to school anymore.
Doesn't have to do chores.
Correct. Johnny gets whatever food he wants whenever he wants. He can stay up late and watch TV. Like, this is looking pretty good to the siblings. So then they start acting out. And then it becomes even more cumbersome for the family who's doing their best to stay together and to hold that family unit together. So Casey Cares steps in, and whether they want to go for an amazing evening at the Caps game, we don't just give it to the sick kid. The child who's battling for their life could be in the hospital, and we still encourage the parents or one of the parents to go with the other kids, or maybe their best friend, or somebody who's always there to support that family, and really make it an experience so everybody is thriving through this dark time.
That is amazing, because, and you mentioned that you do a lot more than the PJs. The PJs is sort of the starting point for Casey Cares, and people can connect with that. But you do these family festivities. You mentioned the Caps game. Everybody, how can you not be happy when you go cheer on our Caps? But there's a lot of other things that you do for them. What are some of the other family festivities that you do?
So over the past 20 years, we have really listened to all of our families and their struggles and tried to meet them where they are. So in a diagnosis, you have your good days, your bad days, you have your good months and your bad months. So we've structured to make sure we always have something to offer our families. We get to know each and every one of our families, and we get to know what they need when they need it. So their immune system, there could be a virus going around, their immune system are depleted, so we'll provide them with a movie and pizza night at home in the comfort of their own home. Mom doesn't have to cook, and they get spoiled with a double feature at home and all the pizza they could ever dream of.
So that is truly a gift to the whole family. So everybody gets to sit on the couch at the same time. Nobody has to cook, and all you need to do is put the pizza box in the recycling bin.
Absolutely. And when families are starting to feel a little bit better and the doctors have given them the sign off, we'll send them on amazing getaways, which it could just be a long weekend at the beach, but that's all they need. It's a deep breath. It's a time for them to come together as one and to focus on creating new happy memories. Because just because these children are battling for their lives doesn't mean they can't smile ever again. Doesn't mean they can't have fun and laugh and still be children.
And that's the whole point of fighting that fight, so
That's
you can
right.
have those moments. So when children, again, we're talking about children have critically ill battles on their hands. How do they go on vacation? If they do they bring a nurse? Do they have to bring medications? How does that all work? Or do you just do it again on a case by case?
It's all case by case, but think about it. It's like if you have your worst day and you are sick with the flu and you can't even get out of bed to go to work, and somebody's like, come on, let's go to Vegas. You're like, what? No, that's not an appropriate time. Like, what are you thinking? And that's what we do at Casey Cares. So we're going to offer activities for families who need that, 24-hour care that they can participate in locally, wherever they live. And then when they're feeling better and they have the sign off from the doctor to go, that's when we spoil them and send them away to wherever it is they want to go to. Perhaps the child had a port in and they couldn't go swimming over the summer. That's devastating for a child and their family. So guess what? They're healthy enough this winter. They had their port removed. We're sending them to an indoor water park to have the time of their life. So we want to just be there for the family, whatever they need. If they're feeling better and they can do a meet and greet with a rock star that they've idolized, we're going to set that up for them.
That is amazing. So that behind the scenes, and I'm sure you're very good at this, I have no doubt, but how do you get indoor water parks, race car drivers, rock stars, trips to amazing beaches? How do you put that all together behind the scenes?
It is the tremendous generosity of our community. We have never had to deny the request for financial reasons of a family, and we never want to. To us, that's success.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. So we are out there begging and just asking and asking and asking because people have sports tickets that they're not using that they just want to donate to KC Cares. We will put them to amazing use. We have families who have air miles who they're not using them. Donate them to KC Cares so we can send a family away. There are so many ways that people can get involved and can make a really big impact without having to write a check with a lot of zeros at the end. We'll take those as well, but there are so many ways to get involved and to make a direct impact on our community.
Now, after 20 years, have you established relationships with some of these various other organizations or destination places or locally in town? Has that been part of it that you all do?
We would not be where we are today if we didn't have these amazing relationships. But we also realize that they're in business and they can't be. There are so many lovely organizations out there that need support. And so they can't support every one of them. So unfortunately, we do still have to pay for these opportunities for the children in our programs, and we'll continue to pay for them. That's why we need to have different events and fundraisers throughout the year to make sure that we can have this happen and to make sure that we never have to say no.
That is amazing. And so you also do something special when it is the child's birthday.
Oh my gosh, of course. So this started, again, our programs are all based on what these families' needs are. One day, probably 17 years ago, a mom called and we were organizing an event for her daughter. And she was just kind of venting about her daughter was turning 16 and it's just not what she thought it was going to be. Her hair was falling out on her desk at school because she was determined to keep up with her schedule. People were making fun of her. And I got off the phone so upset that this little girl and this mom was going through this that I couldn't help myself. I called the local florist because on their application, we have their school, their home address, and we sent this little girl 24 roses. And we just said, "Happy sweet 16, thinking of you." That was it. We didn't hear a word from the mom for 3 days, and we thought, oh gosh, we've overstepped. Then the mom called and was like, "Was it you? Was it you?" Which is always daunting to answer. And she said she went from everybody making fun of her to the most popular gal in school because when she was called up to the office and brought back those roses, she told everybody she met a college guy in clinic.
Good thinking.
And that's where our birthday blast started from, and we saw what a difference that made in the family's still talking about it. So we do surprise deliveries to children wherever they are, whether it's home, whether it's in the hospital, to whatever's appropriate. If it's a little boy, we're going to send him some amazing Lego concoction for him to play with because sometimes that's all they can do while they're in bed or at home. And of course, if it's a teenager, we're going to send him an iTunes gift card. So we really make sure that each gift is thoughtfully given to each one of our children.
That is amazing because you don't think about there's just the whole span of ages. You don't necessarily think about all those spans of ages.
There's so many spans of ages, and we even treat the twins as well. And we had these little twin boys, Eric and Aaron, and unfortunately the one twin lost his battle. But we continued to support the family. And when their birthdays came along, we sent them balloons because we sent them balloons, like all these multicolored balloons and this big bouquet. And he had called and asked if it was okay if he sends up the blue balloons to his brother because that's his favorite color. And it's like moments like that, you're like, that was a $50 gift. That was it. But what it created for that family is truly priceless. And that's what it's all about at KC Cares, is just stepping in to make those little moments and lasting memories happen.
And I think that speaks back to you and your volunteers and the organization that you have, that you take the time to get to know what they need. Tell me about Hammy's Heart, because I know that's a beautiful story. But just remind us.
Yes. So we have so many beautiful stories at KC Cares. And there are some great stories, too, about the children in our programs who do survive and create tons of inspiration for us. But Hammy was in our programs, and he was such a spitfire, and just so full of life. Unfortunately, Hammy lost his battle, and his mom had stepped up to honor his life and his exuberance by providing gift cards to all of our families for food for groceries because Hammy's such a good one. He loved food. And because of his medication, he had these crazy cravings. And I remember one time being at the most amazing, he was allowed to be Under Armour's model for a lifetime. He was offered this contract. It was such a special moment. And in the middle of the whole thing, he's like, I want ribs. And we all looked at each other as he's been granted this. Jordan Spieth was there. I mean, all these people were there. And we're like, ribs right now, buddy? And he's like, yeah, I really want ribs. And so, that's funny. What Hammy got was ribs. But Gina, as she's honoring Hammy's memory, she realizes that not every family can just go out and get whatever their child is craving at that moment. And sometimes when your child is that sick, the only way you can get a smile is by offering them their favorite food. And that's what we're able to do through Hammy's heart and his amazing memory.
That is incredible. And I think it also is incredible that parents who've lost a child are just not walking off into the sunset, but they are staying in the fight for other children. We're not crying because we're on the radio. We don't do that. We keep moving. But that's the part that's also so compelling to me.
The strength that our families and the positivity that our families exude is mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing year after year to see this. They are the most amazing, connected, positive people you ever want to surround yourself. And they have every opportunity to think that things aren't going their way, and they never do it. And these families who come back and support KC Cares after they lose a child, or even as their child transitions, being in remission, because that holds a whole new grouping of problems. And because a lot of times families are in remission, the child's in remission, but they have developmental delays because of the treatment and when they got the treatment. So while they're in remission, everybody else around them wants to say, yay, you're good. And they're not so good. They may be good on the outside. Their test results may be good, but there's still so much more that needs to be catered to and cared for. And these families are just amazing, and they are our inspiration. That's why we keep doing it, because, it's so much easier to travel with a friend.
Absolutely, for everything. And speaking of that, tell us about your caring connections.
So don't forget this, is that when families, think about if you're a parent or growing up, that you know that your family's friends ended up being your friends, that, it was the kids who were on the baseball team together, all those parents kind of came together, or the kids at school, the parents come together. But think about when the child is ripped out of those situations because they can't attend school, they're too sick to play a sport. Those relationships over time dry up. So we have these amazing parties where we bring all of our families together in different areas to do different things, whether it's laser tag so the boys can get out there and run around. And when I say run around, I don't necessarily mean on 2 feet. They run around in their wheelchairs. They have their breathing machines, and nobody cares because everybody has a little something going on. And it's so freeing to have our families pulled together to generate new relationships that understand how difficult it is to have your child visibly look different than other children and being stared at. So it's those moments that make a difference. And
then those families stay connected because they know what the other one is going through. And then they understand that they're not alone either.
Absolutely. That's what we're about. It's the best palliative care that we can offer is to take care of the whole person and the whole family. That's what we do at KC Cares.
Have you had children who are now healthy come back and speak to you or anyone at KC Cares, and what is that like?
It's amazing. So you overhear them walking through the office, and you hear this little guy that I'm thinking of saying, oh, right, no, I know. I was a KC Cares kid. Yes!
That's the T-shirt you want to make. I was a KC Cares kid.
That is exactly right. And it is just the most fulfilling, amazing thing to be obsessed with. We all think about the things that we're obsessed with in life that are negative, and we're trying to change those. But at KC Cares, we're obsessed with helping others and making every day count.
That is so fantastic. And again, don't forget to have your greatest pajama party ever, the world's biggest pajama party, and they can go to kccares.org and they can find out all the information. It can be a fundraiser. You can tag it on social media and just make it a fun event.
We need everybody's help to making this a fun event and getting the word out about Casey Cares, and we're here to support the community.
That is so wonderful. Well, I want to thank again Casey Baines. Now you know why we have her back. She's just a bright light. Best pajama party ever. You find everything at CaseyCares.org. I'm Barbara Britton. Thank you so much for joining me on DMV Spotlight on ESPN 630.